Hello and welcome to Back to the Feature, the show we talk about movies past, present, and future. Today, we are talking about the brand new movie from Alex Garland, his sophomore film, Annihilation. Annihilation stars Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Gina Rodriguez, Tessa Thompson, and everybody's favorite man in Hollywood, Oscar Isaac. And it is really one of the most interesting, thought-provoking, and visually mesmerizing sci-fi films that we have seen in the 21st century. I was really impressed with Ex Machina, and I was very, very happy to see that this definitely was up to that standard.
Yeah, I was a little nervous there at the beginning, until reviews started coming out, until the critics started, you see that Metacritic score and the Rotten Tomatoes score, like, okay, I'm excited for this. Like, I've been excited for it all this time, but I was like, this is stepping up to the plate to meet up the expectations after Ex Machina. And, walking out of the movie theater, sure enough, it's so complex. The themes are always so complex. And it was really exciting.
I think that's the thing that I really like about directors like Alex Garland. It's why we should all be excited that now Aaron Sorkin is also like directing films. And one of the things I really love about Exorcist 3 is I think there's a certain aesthetic to writers directing. And, writers know everything that's supposed to be in that screenplay, everything that's on the page, all these characters who they're supposed to be. So sometimes I think for some stories, there's nothing better than having the writer who's also the director. And all these guys being guys that started off being, just straight up writers, now coming into becoming directors, I think they have such a clarity of vision and they know how to bring across a lot of depth to what they have on the written page and being able to show that and represent that. They know exactly what they want to show. You're not trying to translate that to another director.
Yeah.
Who's trying, okay, this is what my vision for it is, and the director goes, look, I was talking with the producers, and we're going to kind of tweak this here, tweak this there. I want this, they want that, you want this.
It'd be really hard as a writer.
Yeah, and I think that anybody who writes anything knows that it's kind of like, it's like your baby. So I think that it's going to be really hard to watch someone try to represent your child for you.
I think it's really interesting, and it almost feels like this movie it almost had to be that way.
Yeah.
And this is like a passion project for Alex Garland as well, and this is a beloved trilogy of books, and I think this has been deemed kind of like the unadaptable film. I think it was kind of in production.
Totally understandable given what the subject matter is.
Yeah.
The plot for Annihilation is that there is this, I don't know if you want to call it a being, but it's called the Shimmer. And basically it's this area where this meteor is hit is sort of expanding out, where it has basically the fountain-like effects over this area that is basically, I guess the best way to say it is kind of being terraformed. In this way, and they're sending in these groups of scientists, military men, all these people. They're trying to gather data on what is this thing. It's changing and destroying what is, and it's just expanding and expanding toward this research facility until they basically, Jennifer Jason Leigh's character is kind of like, well, we need to get in here and figure this thing out.
Because nobody's returning. Yeah. No one's coming back, except for one person.
Yeah, one person finally comes back, and that's how Natalie Portman gets brought into it. Her husband, Oscar Isaac, finally returns, which gets her kind of embroiled in all this stuff, and then kind of drafted into Jennifer Jason Leigh's kind of final group that's going to go in there and try to figure this out. And it is a really interesting cast. It's a female-driven cast, but it was one of those things that going into it, I had no idea that was going to be part of it, and I don't think it's something that really, I think, it never sticks out. It never feels like it's trying to pander to anything. No, absolutely not. It just all makes, each of the characters being there all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, it works with the plot too, because they even say we keep sending in sending in military units and stuff. Yep. So this time we're going to send in scientists and not be as aggressive or whatever.
Yeah.
But this movie's a mystery. I love mysteries, and I think this is like conceptually one of the most, at least I should say, one of the more unique films I've seen in a long time.
Yes.
And just purely one of the most unique films I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah, I think that especially when it comes to sci-fi, I think that you see these movies that make these big leaps. And I think that then you see for a while we get stuff that's all just kind of churning, that same thing. It's like after Star Wars hit in 77, everything was trying to be Star Wars. You know, after Alien, everything's trying to be Alien. You know, we kind of keep seeing that where...
Like, I mean, like, 2000 Space Odyssey is still getting replicated. You know, like
exactly. But
like
this is what this and like Arrival and things like that, they remind me of things like that, because when you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, yes, there's people that want to imitate it, but it is so original, and it's just its own thing.
Yeah.
And no matter how many times you watch it, you just know that it's its own thing. And this feels like that as well. It feels like something truly original, something we haven't seen before, a new angle on sci-fi that we haven't quite gotten before. Kind of like how Arrival was this interesting thing of like, okay, what if they land and we just want to straight up communicate with them instead of like turning it into Mars Attacks. Something like, you know what I mean? Like the invasion film. Like, how can we do this in a different way and look at it from this other angle and really kind of find these new themes in sci-fi? Because I think that we've done it to death. You know what I mean? We've done the Star Wars thing to death. We've done like grimdark universes to death. We've done, like the Alien type thing to death. So.
Sci-fi is one of those things where it's very easy to just replicate and churn out a similar thing. It's also very easy to just come up with a brand new crazy idea, and it blows everybody away. Mm-hmm. I just want to mention too, I think this was, because I think some of the avid book fans might have a problem with this film because I feel like it's its own animal. But Alex Garland he actually had a blessing from the original author.
Mm-hmm.
He went and talked to him and he discussed kind of his ideas and what he wanted to do with this film. And he got the blessing from the author himself.
Yeah.
And he liked his approach and what he was doing with it. So I think that's really cool, and I think that brings authenticity. In and of itself, even though it might change or deviate from the book.
I think that I was reading that Alex Garland only read the book once and didn't reread it for his movie. He wanted to still have his own vision for it, so he basically did the film plot he did from memory, what he remembered from reading the book. And I think that when you watch this film and kind of understand like what's going on in it, and we really don't want to spoil anything because it is so different, and I think it's important to go in blind in this movie. I think it's an important aspect is to not have everything given to you, because that's like a lot of the fun of this movie, or like the enjoyment, I think, is really unwrapping it and getting this information and what you do with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that it was a great approach for him to do that, because I think that it plays really well into its hand as far as the aesthetic of the film and the plot of the film. It kind of like he's kind of doing that now to himself while he's writing it, and I think that that's gonna kind of make that experience happen.
Yeah,
that like kind of really naturally. So
I didn't know that. That's actually really awesome, because I mean, like some people like dedicate the craft and they want to like get everything right and they want to be perfect. So it's the same with like covering music. Mm-hmm. You want to do it exactly or this and that. But I think it's really cool that there's artists out there that like, I experienced this and I want to create what I felt and what I experienced while reading this.
It's like a well-meaning really cool. Kubrick on The Shining. Like, I'm going to do my own thing, but I'm not going to fuck with you like I did with Stephen King. You know what I mean?
It's like, this is what I felt like as
there's no flipped over red Beatles or anything. So it's like, I think that
might
was
be a really deep cut for some viewers.
That's a really good. I think that was a really good approach for Alex Garland going into this film like that. I think that it was the right move. Like I said, it's kind of the well-meaning Kubrick approach.
Yeah. But so I mean, we're talking about a lot about what we thought of this movie and some of those details. What do you have for negatives in this film?
Negatives for me, really the only thing that I think that I had as far as a negative was just really there's one subplot that I don't 100% think fits. We didn't need it. I think that I see its purpose and I see how it drives these characters, like what's going on now and what happens before to get to now. I see where it's this inciting event, but at the same time, I think that there's details to it that it does feel a little out of left field, but I think that could maybe iron itself out on maybe more than one viewing.
Yeah.
If I find that there's more thematic purpose to it, but
yeah, and I actually agree with you on that too. That's that subplot. I think I know what you're talking about. We didn't discuss it before, pushing record, but there is that. There's that kind of thing going on. I don't really know exactly what the intention of it was, because I don't know if it doesn't feel needed with the character arc. So yeah, I think that, and of course because of that, there's a lot of timeline misconstrued. I was following it perfectly fine, but there's some editing that goes like past, future, present.
It could be very confusing.
It could be a little confusing, and maybe even take you out of it a little bit, especially if you don't necessarily fully understand the purpose of it. But it didn't take me out of the film very much. It's a pretty minor critique of mine.
Yeah, it's pretty minor critique, and there was one character that was more of a source of frustration for me. But I think that they were meant to be that way, and that's not like I think a true negative. But there was a couple things where I felt like, I think in any other movie you wouldn't give it a pass. But because of the plot of this movie, you can give it a pass. So it's kind of a thing that bugged me, but then, like, this thing is bugging me, and then, oh, wait, no, the movie kind of answers that. Or, like, because of the circumstances that then happen, you kind of go, oh, okay. So it's kind of tough, where it's like, there's moments when I was in the theater watching it the first time where, like, this person frustrated me, but it's not like it was something that was unintentional or wrong. At the end of the day, it was okay, I understand why that happened. So, it's really just minor things like that. Other than that, man, this is I think a modern sci-fi classic. That definitely could be.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are going to attack it now because we've said that. Like, and other people are saying that too. Like, as soon as you start saying something's classic or a masterpiece, then people are like, how can we gun that down? So that people stop thinking it's that good. There'll be a lot of overrated comments, I'm sure. It's overrated.
Arrival's overrated. Interstellar's overrated.
Good movies are all overrated. You're right.
Overrated by a by some
group. Oh God! If we could just watch movies in like the 70s and 80s, John, right?
Right.
We just go back.
I know.
Just
before the internet.
60s. Probably 60s, 70s is probably what I'd pick. Maybe definitely 70s though, for sure. Just, I think the atmosphere would have been a little bit better around film.
A little bit, yeah. Scorsese in his youth. I mean, his old age back then too.
He's always been old.
He's always been old.
Oh my goodness! But yeah, overall, wow, it's a great movie. I think that if you really liked Arrival, check this one out. I think you're really gonna dig it. So we talked a lot about our glowing feelings about Annihilation. So John, what is your final summary and grade for Annihilation?
I think Ex Machina is a fantastic film. I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece like a lot of people come out and say, but it is close to perfect as you can get, I think, in a film. So I was really excited to see more from Alex Garland, and this movie has just had me intrigued since that first teaser that we saw for it, and just the entire movie experience, being in this theater and watching this plot unfold is just, it's so intriguing, and it's so conceptually creative and brilliant, and I thought I just had a blast watching this movie. I think it's visually stunning, the music, the atmosphere, the tension of this movie. I was just on the edge, clenching my seat the whole time. Actually, I dragged my wife to go see it. She hates horror movies, and she wanted to see it. I didn't have the nerve to tell her this is a horror film.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what to expect though either, because they don't give you anything.
It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't.
But there are some terrifying moments in this. There's some crazy gore. So I mean, if you're looking for all those different things, you're gonna find it in this film. But just conceptually, it just had me so intrigued, and my thought, just everything, my thought process, just studying this movie, and I can't wait to watch it again. I think it's just one of the better movie-going experiences I've had in a long time. Just kind of talking about some of the brief little negatives that we have. I want to watch this film again before I would give it that kind of like masterpiece kind of mark. I think there are some minor issues going on in the film. So I actually give Annihilation an A. And I can't wait to watch it again, which, for those of you who don't know, it's actually going on Netflix in a couple weeks. It's skipping a couple different release markets overseas, so I highly recommend you go out and give it its money in the theater, but if you don't get around to it, it's going to be on Netflix, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think that Annihilation is probably one of the best sci-fi movies since Arrival. Like, I've compared it to that a lot, but I think that it's the originality, it's the how can we look at sci-fi in this new great angle? And this is coming from a guy who Blade Runner 2049, my favorite movie last year. But it's definitely not the same as that. It's very different than that. So I think Arrival is a more apt comparison to what that does. Overall, though, it is filled with great acting. Natalie Portman's fantastic. Oscar Isaac is Oscar fucking Isaac. And really, the whole supporting cast around them are really great. Like I said, even with my negative on that one character, like I said, it all has purpose. It all makes sense. It's one of the most interesting plots in any sci-fi film I think I've ever watched. Was endlessly intriguing to try to figure out the answers, trying to pick this movie's brain and try to... I would say I want to have all the evidence out in front of me while you're like watching this film. So it's great to have that mind treat that this film is, and I love a movie that doesn't spoon feed me, and this movie definitely doesn't spoon feed you. So if that is something that, like, if you are a person that loves a lot of information, like you feel like you need to have information, you're not satisfied, this movie is going to anger you. You are not going to like that aspect of it. But if you like movies that are open-ended like that and that are ambiguous, this is like one of the king films of that, but I think done in a great way, that you really want to figure those answers out. You're not just sort of like, well, they didn't give me anything. They give you plenty. You just have to kind of like put the puzzle together. So it, as we said before, it's got these great elements of sci-fi, but it also has these amazing elements of horror. It is terrifying. There's this ominous dread the entire time that they're in the shimmer that I think works really, really well on that kind of level of, like John was saying, like edge of your seat. And then too, as you're saying, it's coming to Netflix, guys. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, that means I'm going to wait. But he said it before, go see it in the theater. It is visually worth your time to go see it on a big screen. And I think that in about like 20 years, you'll be kicking yourself in the head that you didn't go and see it in a theater. Because you're going to be like, I missed the next 2001 A Space Odyssey in a theater. You know, I didn't get that experience. So it's like not getting to ever see Pantera, you know. So it's one of those things, like go out, check it out in the theater, give it its money because it really, really deserves it. Alex Garland is definitely someone to watch, and I think that the thing I was most impressed about is that there's this very Hitchcock feel when you're watching Ex Machina. You have none of that. He's able to really adapt his style, and I think that it's really interesting going forward because I think that there's a lot of things that Alex Garland can do and we just don't know it yet. I agree with John. I'm going Annihilation an A with the potential on rewatch to possibly go up to an A+. I think this is a really, really great film, and we are blessed this February with two really good films in a row here. So, guys, that has been our review of Annihilation. If you've seen it, tell us what you think in the comments, and especially, like, we'll have some spoiler discussion down there, because obviously we didn't want to wreck that, so guys, be careful in the comments. But you can find us on our Facebook at /BacktoFeature, and you can also find us on our Twitter at BacktoFeature. I've been Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Metalu.
And we'll see you guys next time.
It's destroying everything.
It's not destroying. It's making something new.